Welcome to Preparing for the Unexpected. Today, we're going to talk about some rogue AI issues that have started to make the headlines. And who better to talk about that than having our returning AI specialist, Jason Haas. Jason, welcome back.
Thank you so much, Alex, for having me back. We're going to have a great conversation around this topic today. I was so excited when I saw that land in my inbox, and I am just ready to dive deep into this and kind of pick it apart because I think there's more to it than what the headlines show.
Yeah, me too. I had all kinds of thoughts here, and I don't know if we'll get time to touch on everything, but I had quite a few things going on as well. But I knew as soon as I saw it in the headlines in the last couple of weeks, was I got to get Jason. I got to get Jason. So,
Well,
so
thanks.
why don't we just get started? WTF? What's going on? These rogue AIs, Claude, Anthropic, OpenAI, have been somehow released from their test environments, and they're hacking. They're hacking real corporations. What's going on?
Right. And they're hacking real corporations. Well, hacking. I'll use my little air quotes. Maybe people see the video, maybe they don't. Either way, air quotes, hacking, third parties and unbeknownst of the model owners, the frontier model owners, which is both shocking, scary, appalling, dereliction of duty, incompetent. That I don't know. I've got so many other descriptive words to use, but it's fascinating. And the headlines tell one story, but I think the reality is a little bit different. Are you familiar with the thing called the three truths? The three truths, if anybody isn't, is your truth, my truth, and somewhere in the middle is the truth. And I think we're dealing with a little bit of that here. We have what the frontier companies, Anthropic and OpenAI, are saying. We have, the general court of opinion out there, LinkedIn and YouTube, and everyone's got their opinion and posting it out there. And then we have what the news items are sharing. And to me, this stinks of marketing. And I'm not saying that these models didn't break out of their test environments. Of course they did, because it was plagued by something that's plagued all IT people since the age of keyboards and computers and technology. It's called misconfiguration.
Hmm.
Ugh, horrible. And that's at least what I know about Anthropic. Anthropic's model breaking out of its test environment was due to a human misconfiguration issue. That's why I have a job in IT. Thank you to my peers who misconfigure their systems, who help create incidents, which allows me to pull a paycheck. I appreciate you more than you possibly know, even at 3 a.m. when we're showing up on those bridges. Either way, OpenAI's tells a little bit different story, and I'm not quite sure what to believe yet, because here we're a bunch of outsiders looking in. We don't have the after action reports. We weren't on those incident bridges, whatever. But Anthropic seemed like their model, not Anthropic, OpenAI, get the two conflated. OpenAI's model found a vulnerability, an undisclosed vulnerability in a package distribution platform, which allowed it to get access to escalate its privileges to gain access to the internet into solving a key objective, which it determined going to the website service Hugging Face, which if you're not familiar with Hugging Face, go check it out. It hosts a ton of models out there. I use it for different types of open source type models out there, like OpenGS, Gemma, GLM, so on and so forth, DeepSeek, all those models are out there that you can get. Anyways, and it escalated its attack vector into Hugging Face because it determined that vendor had the ability to help them solve issues. And lo and behold, OpenAI didn't know that their models had broken containment.
Mhm.
Anthropic didn't know their models had broken containment. It required a third-party notification, i.e. Hugging Face had escalated it back to OpenAI. And that OpenAI model was in the Hugging Face environment, I believe, for, was it 2.5 days before it was
Yeah,
detected?
yeah.
Which something really stinks about all of this. this is where I go now, shift and put in my little tinfoil hat. I wish I had tinfoil out here right now. I don't, but I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat and say this stinks of marketing, because what a better way to sell a frontier model and subscription services, which is why these companies exist, is to say our cutting edge frontier model did something really scary and we're so proud of it.
Yeah.
Imagine if any other company did this that didn't have the billions or trillions of dollars behind them and the support of the federal government, i.e., OpenAI, with their contract with the Department of War, and Anthropic trying to get back into the good graces of the U.S. government. What if something like happened this when if you and I had a frontier model? Man can dream. And this happened to a third party enterprise. Do you think our results would be coming out like this? Do you think we would get litigated? Do you think we would be a negative news item that potentially, the police are going to become kicking down our doors and put us in cuffs and haul us away because we did something illegal? Now, I know in the US, there's laws around, so to speak, ethical hacking. Well, I don't know if it's ethical hacking, but about doing research in the cybersecurity space where when bad things like this happen, it's more like our bad, no harm, no foul. This was part of a research ability, which I think is what we're seeing here. However, it's all about what rose-colored glasses you're wearing and what broad brush you're going to paint this story with. And I am questioning the validity of the facts being shared by the frontier companies, the facts being shared by Hugging Face. This screams of something else.
Well, that was one of the challenges that I had when I read these articles and saw the headlines is, okay, so this happened. I do understand. Maybe there was a human mistake somewhere, configuration, someone didn't tick a box, whatever the case may be, and it got out there. But before it got out there, it seems like you were all these AI platforms were set up to actually do this. So in the background, they seem to have created, well, let's do this hacking. Let's see if we can do it. And I can't help but think, were you doing that, creating these environments, these processes where OpenAI, Claude, and Anthropic, et cetera, can go out and hack other organizations? Were you doing that to help show vulnerabilities, or were you doing that to legitimately weaponize or something, some of these things? Because all of these things keep coming out. And like you said, marketing, and there's so much negativity about AI right now out there. People are afraid of it, losing their roles, etc. So is this out there to show that, hey, this could happen. The bad guys do this all the time, so let's get on board type thing, but show us as the good guys. So to your point, marketing, see how they can do it. We know how they can do it now and how they're doing it, so we can get on board. So now you subscribe to our service. And I put all that together, and like you said, I went, yeah, it does seem like was a setup, but that's with my tinfoil hat on it kind of.
I have so many questions around all of this. And again, it just screams of marketing. And when I look at the news stories online, as well as the links that you had sent and I was doing my reading, it's not telling the whole, it feels like it's only telling what we want to hear, what OpenAI and what Anthropic wanted us to hear. We haven't heard a ton from Hugging Face. We've heard a little bit, but even the post from like the CEO posting, from the inside of a terminal saying, "Oh, I got to go hop on a plane to deal with an incident." To me, this feels too soft. This doesn't feel like this was real. This feels orchestrated. This feels, I don't know, just my spidey senses, my gut feeling tells me this simply stinks, and there's more to this story. And it's not necessarily and I have no doubts that these frontier models, the Mythos class, the GPT, was it 5.6 or whatever their frontier capable model is like that. I have no doubt that they're capable of some amazing feats. However, those amazing feats, it's not like these are self-aware. We're not there yet, even though Sam Altman has posted, oh, we're at AGI. Yeah, that
Mhm.
sounds like that's going to add shareholder value and potentially increase some subscriptions to OpenAI. That seems like, again, a marketing play. I'm a total skeptic here around AI. I'm a believer of AI. I love AI, and I also dislike it too. And I dislike the people who run it. There's an inherent distrust with that corporate machine there. And at the end of the day, it seems like everything they're doing is to sell more subscriptions. It's to sell more API access. It's to sell the next enterprise agreement with another government or a big mover and shaker. It's about adding shareholder value uh, on the backs of us, trench workers, where that just aids into the fear of AIs coming for our jobs. And again, there's more to this story. The Anthropic one was all about misconfiguration. So it's just doing your best practices and following your own standard operating procedures to begin with would have prevented the whole Anthropic thing. And of course, they're going to blame a third party
Of
because
course.
it's really hard to look in the mirror and take accountability and saying, I am the problem. I caused this. Guess what? Anthropic's agreement with a third party and not validating their standard operating procedures puts Anthropic at risk. I blame Anthropic for this because it's their model. They're the ones who created the agreement with the third party. They're the ones who are ultimately responsible for this issue that happened. Yeah, a third party screwed up. It sucks. But in business and business resilience, when a third party screws up and you're using them, guess whose fault it is? Yours,
Yeah.
your company. You own the incident. As much as you want to blame third party, like when AWS, region one East goes belly up. Of course, we say Amazon sucks, but at the end of the day, it's impacting our services and our ability to offer services to our customers. So it's our fault. So the narrative feels like they don't necessarily control it.
Yeah.
Anthropic's blaming a third party. OpenAI is saying we didn't know. In fact, Anthropic didn't know either. These are very large, well-resourced organizations who should have observability and monitoring, who should have cybersecurity, who should have red teaming, white teaming, all the different teaming out there, who should have business resilience, crisis management, all of these things that we know as practitioners should be in place. Don't it? It feels like they're moving fast and breaking things without having much of a care because guess what? Makes for a splashy news item. And I
Yeah.
bet you it sells more shares and more subscriptions. Oh, cool. Yay, we've won.
Yeah. When it first came out, there was panic everywhere. And then it felt like some of these companies were rolling back. Oh, well, don't worry about it. Nothing happened. It's like, well, wait a minute. For years, you've been going the other direction. Everyone panic, panic, panic. Now all of a sudden you're rolling back and blaming it on other things, third parties, etc., or human error, or whatever the case may be. Going, well, shouldn't you be concerned about this? Because there were, who was it? Claude. Claude had a capture the flag initiative where they released ethical hacking, use the term you had, into the internet to find red flags in vulnerabilities for some organizations. Well, hang on. Wait a minute. Isn't that the kind of the same thing you were just talking about? That's marketing. It's not going into anything, but hey, look at the things we found. Pay us more and we'll get that fixed for you, or whatever the case may be. And it's like, well, wait a minute, why is this all coming out now? Like, what's going on? And to your point, the marketing, it does seem right. Like it does align with what all these other initiatives or things occurring have in common. It all seems like here we're finding mistakes on your end. It's not our fault, all your end, but give us more money, we'll fix it, or more subscribers so we can make this better. And it does seem a little fishy.
Hey, and what this kind of reminds me of, because, thinking of the goals where the idea of capture the flag, where it's trying to achieve this objective. And this reminds me, I had to Google this while you were talking because it stuck with me. It's called Goodhart's Law, which is a phenomenon when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure because people or AI optimized strictly for that metric rather than the true underlying goal. So here I think we have a bit of Goodhart's law going on with Anthropic for the capture the flag. It will do whatever it takes to get that flag because that flag is the only target it cares about, not necessarily the methodology and how it got there or the bigger reason for that capturing of the flag, which, could be, different incident strategy, compromise strategy, hacking strategy. There's a lot more to it than just getting the flag.
Mhm.
But it just seems like, AI, just like people, because again, AI is based on us and we're far from perfect, or at least I am. And this stinks of Goodhart's law to a point of that optimization for goal only at any means necessary to get there. Just like if my compensation is based on getting a certain target, well, I'm going to optimize everything I do to make sure I hit that objective, that target, so I get that additional compensation increase. Now, did that help the business? I don't know. Do I care? No. Do I care if it lands in my paycheck? Yes.
Mm.
So, we have a little bit of that going on here too, at least with the Anthropic part with Claude. But this is just so interesting. There's more to this. And over time, maybe we'll get some more truth out of this from the open AIs, from the Hugging Faces, from the Anthropics, and the litany of organizations that it did compromise. All I know is we're not done yet. And we're going to keep talking about this. This is going to keep on happening. And you need to ask yourself, is this fact or fiction?
Yeah, because it does seem a little bit of an attempt to capitalize on fear
Sure
that
does. And fear
organizations have and
sells.
people have. Yeah, and fear does sell. And it's when people are fearful, it's easier to manipulate and change
Yeah.
narratives and get different outcomes that we wouldn't have thought of.
Right. And just think of like what we do as practitioners in our day to day in business continuity, business resilience. We don't sell blue sky scenarios because nobody cares about blue sky, calm seas, everything's fine. We sell about that horizon threat, that risk that's happened before, or that news item that's happening right now. Like today, I'm watching the sunrise and it is extremely orange, which means I have wildfire here. I can sell the fear of wildfire right now. Oh my gosh, the sky is miscolored. It's smoky, air quality stinks and fear, because that's what gets people's attention. That's what keeps people up at night, not thinking about all the goodness in the world. It's, uh-oh, what's coming for me?
Yeah, and that could have been the reason for these platforms for the escape, of their systems is build on that fear,
Right.
and get more subscriptions, make put themselves in a better light eventually, to try and make themselves look better, build on that fear.
Yep. And if I had to summarize all of this with one word, and this is my opinion and my opinion only, money. That's what this is
Mhm.
about. This is about money.
Yeah,
Shocker.
yeah, big surprise there. Eh? Jason, thank you so much for chatting about this. I really appreciate it. I knew you were the one to reach out to.
Thank you so much, Alex. Can't wait till this happens again. We'll talk about it again and again. I'm curious. Where's Meta? Where's Google? Where's other frontier type organizations? Why haven't their models broken out yet? Oh my gosh.
Mm, they
More to
might
come.
they might soon. They got to get their share.
Well, they're going to have some FOMO here.
Yeah,
Anthropic had some FOMO around OpenAI, and I'm just waiting for Google and Meta and all the others to come on out with their own stories.
yeah. So we'll take our uh, tinfoil hats off now. Jason, always a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate the time. Take care.
Welcome back. As always, Jason and I started to have a conversation once we hit the stop record button. And Jason, you brought up a couple of interesting points um, that we actually didn't cover during our actual recording, like the ramifications, the FBI,
Right.
etc. Right?
Right. In thinking about when a hacking story is out there or some sort of breach, there's a negative news story around this. There's lawsuits flying. There's government agencies like FBI, CIA, DHS, whatever they may be, at least in the US, all up in this business. And we're not seeing or hearing any of that. Where's the lawsuits in all of this? Where's the negative news stories? I mean, heck, CrowdStrike tipping over, thousands of computers, hundreds of thousands of computers around the globe multiple years ago had more traction than this. Just think if you owned that enterprise, let's say you owned Hugging Face and, a large company like OpenAI or Anthropic or Google or Meta, whoever it might be, breached your environment, made you look kind of dumb knowing that you didn't find it for a couple of days.
Hmm.
Wouldn't you want a pound of flesh?
Yeah.
Would you want to leverage the laws around this? Ethical hacking or not, that can be decided by a court of law. All I know is Anthropic's like $1 trillion enterprise. I'd be litigating them.
Hmm.
My board would demand that I litigate somebody who breached me, whether they did it under the guise of research and development or something more nefarious. Where's the negative news stories about this? Everyone's just like, yeah, it happened. Oh boy. Oh yeah. Hugging Face is posting, on Twitter or LinkedIn from a terminal, catching an airplane saying, gotta go figure this out. Wait,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, and you think
So
FBI and some of the other cyber security groups and
right,
legal groups and oversight would be involved in not hearing a peep from them.
right. Where's the outrage?
Yeah, yeah.
Which then tinfoil hat back on. I know we had taken it off, but I just said it to the side of me. It tells me there's more to this story, which brings out my BS detector, my skepticism, my genuine curiosity of there's more to this story. And as an incident commander, manager, and having lived that life, I want to know so much more because there's so much more that hasn't been disclosed. As you said it, all we've seen is the bunny in rainbow side. For me, it's unicorns and rainbows. You pick your animals and colorful light streams as you choose. This isn't all great. This isn't a happy accident.
Yeah,
Something not great happened, and it wasn't detected, and everyone's okay with this.
yeah. That
I
just
don't
doesn't
agree.
seem right. Yeah,
Something else is going on.
yeah. Like I said when we first stopped, uh, it just didn't pass the sniff test. For
Right. And
something's not right.
this is the joy of having billions and trillions of dollars. If you have enough money, your power makes it go away. There's a reason why Grok can get away with doing what they're doing. There's a reason why Meta can get away with doing what they're doing. There's a reason why OpenAI and Anthropic can get away with doing what they're doing. Money buys power and influence, and they've spent their dollars wisely.
Yeah, yeah. Jason, thank you so much for this little extra bit of insight. Yeah, we'll take the ads off again.
Tinfoil hat back off.
Always a pleasure chatting with you.
Same here, Alex. Thanks again.